we actually tried bigger molecules, and we found out that this layer is not much stable for bigger proteins. So probably the concentration on the surface of TMAO molecules was not high enough to protect it from the bigger molecules. So that was a very good insight, and we actually learned that we can have this layer which is non-covalently attached, good for small proteins, not for big proteins. And if you see the...
Well, wait a second, you're generalizing. You just said beforehand that it may be not enough TMAO. Now you say it's good for one and not the other, so you have to be careful.
Because TMAO actually crowds around the protein molecules, so that if the protein molecule is big, the concentration is not enough for...
I understand that, but your two conclusions were contradictory.
Okay. So for lysozyme and RNase, it worked pretty well, and these are the percentage normalized reductions versus molecular weight, and it seems to drop off with the increasing molecular weight.
Question, what's the pH of that experiment?
It's all done at 7.4 pH.
7.4?
Yeah. So the other suggestion was to try different osmolyte molecules and just check the exclusiveness of TMAO molecule, and we tried the other well-known osmolyte molecule like sucrose, betaine, and taurine, and a homologue of TMAO, which is we will call MHAO, which is exactly similar like NAO, TMAO, except the extra alkyl chain. So looking at the absorption results again, this is for lysozyme again. So we saw that the reduction was not high or not appreciable for other osmolyte molecules, but it was pretty good for both TMAO and MHAO. So that means that the other molecules probably they are big, or what is going on, I don't know the exact mechanism, but yeah, but definitely these molecules are not good enough to be stable on the surface, so they are not that efficient. So from the concluding from this part, we use the amphiphilic osmolyte TMAO, and we can paint it the hydrophobic substrate, render it protein resistant. Non-covalently TMAO, this layer was stable up to 40 degrees C and at least for 10 hours. It is a simple process, self-forming process on hydrophobic substrates, and it's not very efficient for bigger proteins, or other molecules other than TMAO were not found to be very efficient. And it can be used because it's a natural occurring metabolite, so TMAO can be used for biologics. So from this part, I will just move on to the other study which we have just completed, and surprisingly we are not submitting it in language. And so in this study we are actually using the real metals instead of any SAM systems or polymeric substrates. So this is, and I'll be using 3 blood proteins, the primary blood proteins fibrinogen, BSA, and IgG, and check the absorption on transition metals. So what are transition metals? So transition metals are, in the new definition, they are the from group 4 to group 11 you have these elements which have incomplete d subshell, or they can give rise to cations having incomplete d subshells. And these metals have incredible different properties. They form coordination, entire coordination chemistry studies comes from these elements. And most of our real life instruments and surgical instruments are made from stainless steel and metals, so this is important. So we took different substrates. We took titanium, tungsten, platinum, and gold, and an alloy which is commonly used, that's a stainless steel, the best known alloy, which is mainly used for making bioprocesses instruments or equipments. So our approach will be to choose these 4 transition metal elements and 1 stainless steel substrate, 3 primary blood proteins, and removal was, and once the protein adsorbed, we saw it, how the removal is affected or how they will be removed by the alkaline solution of sodium rhodocale sulfate. So the PIs of all the surfaces and proteins was well below 7.4, so there are not dominant electrostatic interactions, that's what they would do. So first, before going ahead with any measurements, we characterize the surface. We used roughness measurements of the sensor crystals, which was supplied to us by QSense. And the contact angle measurement, this was done in Professor Plosky's lab, and his student Arya Chatterjee helped for these experiments. And then the hydrophobic interaction energy. So I'll just quickly go over the results. For all the 5 sensor substrates, the roughness was on the order of 2 to 3 nanometer. There was no trend, but that was the typical roughness. The contact angle, again, we did not see any appreciable trend in the contact angles. Tungsten was quite low, about 38 degree, and the maximum was platinum, and platinum and gold are about equal within the error, about 50 degrees. And stainless steel and titanium were also of that order. So until now, we were more used to characterize surfaces, SAM surfaces by contact angle measurements, but we did not see any trend in contact angle here. I really don't know why. Yeah.
So a big question someone will ask you, and you may want to address now, is what about the oxides on the surfaces?
Yeah, so I'll address to it. So it has been actually shown by people that if a metal forms an oxide, the Pi of the metal doesn't change appreciably. So it's almost equal. So I'm not expecting any sharp electrostatic changes when the oxide is formed. Tungsten form in native oxides, it's called tungsten trioxide, WO3, which is easily washed by liquid, by water. So we don't expect it to present. Platinum and gold are quite inert, so they don't generally form oxides. And before starting our experiment, we actually thoroughly clean it using Piranha reagent, and we shoot UV ozone to remove any contaminants. So it has been, and all the crystals were brand new from the company, so no crystal has been reused for these particular set of experiments. But if we check just coming backward, so there was not much trend, there was no trend in roughness, no difference, contact angle were about the same. But if you check the hydrophobic interaction energy by taking a hydrophobic probe, which is CH3 SAM terminated alkane thiol, and the metal surface, so there was a marked increase on platinum and gold than compared to rest of the surfaces. So even though the wettability was not much different, this measurement showed a difference in hydrophobic interaction energy. So quickly, how a adsorption looks like. I've already gone through it before, but here the system is, if we injected the solution at t is equal to 0, this was for 40 minutes it was adsorbed. Then it was washed with the background buffer for 15 minutes. So this is the adsorbed amount of protein before putting SDS into the system. At this point, alkaline solution of SDS was injected, and desorption time of 40 minutes was given, and then it was washed with background buffer again. So this was the final amount. So to our surprise, instead of SDS removing the protein from platinum surface, it actually, the mass increased, and we were not able to see why, but we actually carried out the experiments for all the sets. And similarly for IgG and BSA, even the second wash did not work. It was, the adsorption amount was around the same. So no subsequent washes were actually
Also,
any good.
starting to rain.
So it seems that instead of SDS removing the protein from the surface, it was actually absorbing onto the protein layer. That was our imagination. But if you see the trend on tungsten, titanium and stainless steel, it looks something like this, whereas on platinum and gold, it was something like this. So this is quite interesting. So in these cases, once you inject that SDS, it had the drop in the layer was massive. So that means the protein was all removed. Whereas in
Not all, it was removed.
yeah. So so in this case, we imagine that SDS is probably sitting on the adsorbed layer, and the interactions between the adsorbed layer and metal surface is too much, so that this SDS is not able to diffuse in and take it out or solubilize it. Whereas on this was effective on the other three substrates. So if you just plot the mass after adsorption, that was the first equilibrium point, and the checkered one shows the net mass after the layer was treated with 40 minutes with SDS. So there was a marked increase in masses for platinum and gold, as I pointed out earlier, and there was a decrease for tungsten, titanium, and stainless steel in that order. If we just plot the difference between these two and put it on the y-axis, just the percentage removal versus the elements. So that's what we see, that for tungsten and gold there was negative removal, but for platinum and gold there was negative removal, but tungsten, titanium, and stainless steel, the removal was quite efficient with SDS. So why is there a different trend in removal for these 5 elements? What is going on? So our first thought was to carry out, because SPR, as I pointed out earlier, it measures the wet mass. Whatever comes on it is just measured. So we thought that we'd also carry out SPR experiments to see what is happening to the dry mass and how it is. So we decided to estimate the water content of the adsorbed layer, and Professor Fuming Zhang and Professor Lennart, Professor Fuming Zhang actually carried out the experiment for SPR. I'll show it in a minute. And the second second measurement was the measurement of the flexibility of this adsorbed layer. So QCM measures the mass, and it can also give you information about the stiffness of the adsorbed layer. So that's the added advantage. So that's how the QCM measures dissipation. It's called dissipation. So there is so I'll just briefly go over it. So this is the vibrating crystal. It is vibrating in the shear mode. We have an external circuit which actually breaks in a scale of nanoseconds. So once it starts vibrating at resonant frequency and you break the circuit, the energy dampens. This energy damping is called the energy dissipation. Reflects the property of the adsorbed molecule. So if it is a rigid attachment, this dissipation takes a long time, or the dissipation is small. It's a rigid film. If it is inelastic or it is flopping around, so the damping will be in very less time. So that means it actually vibrates off phase with the vibrating crystal. So the bottom line is that delta F, the change in the resonant frequency, can be connected with the mass. That is, the relations has been developed, and delta dissipation tells you about the stiffness.
Can you go a bit faster?
What's that?
Going a bit slow.
Oh, sure. So if we plot the flexibility or the dissipation values for different surfaces versus the percentage removal by SDS and NaOH, we see that so these surfaces are tungsten, titanium, and stainless steel, but these surfaces are gold and platinum. So one thing to note here is that on the positive removal side, fibrinogen seems to be removed more easily than compared to IgG, than compared to BSA. But if you go to the negative side, the trend is reverse. Fibrinogen was most difficult to remove than compared to BSA, than compared to IgG. So we were not able to follow that. What is the difference?
I'm sorry, I just got confused.
Yeah.
What does that mean, negative and positive?
So this is a negative removal. That means the SDS was, instead of removing the protein layer, it was sitting on the layer.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Thank you.
With a surprising result.
Yeah.
Went the opposite way. This one.
So first we calculated the amount of water content. So we used the adsorption of these 3 proteins in SPR and QCMD, and we measured water content, and it seems that the water content was maximum in fib layer than compared to IgG, than compared to BSA. And this was also the removal trend from tungsten, titanium, and stainless steel surfaces. This I just want to point out right now. So now, when it has been known that when the protein population is high enough on the surface, or the surfaces are more adsorbing kind, the proteins also self-interact. And it has been